Hey, it's Chris. There's games. Let's do this. Deep Rock Galactic. It's killing it. Nearly $2 million raised on Kickstarter right now. I'm not going to say out of nowhere, but I would dare say it's blowing expectations out the door. So, what do you need to know about it? Is it right for you? Is it something you are interested in? Well, let's talk, because I've got 5 reasons why this might be a game that you might be better off not backing at this point. But if those reasons aren't good enough for you, then by all means, go ahead and get yourself a copy, because that's okay too. But let's talk and make sure it's right for you and you're just not riding the hype gravy train. Let's do this. So here we go. 17 days left, almost at $2 million like I mentioned. Co-op action board game based on the video game IP Deep Rock Galactic by the same name. You are spacefaring dwarves, mining, fighting off insects, trying to complete your mission. The first thing that needs to be pointed out is, 1, I'm really happy that they have a rule book up so you can take a look at it yourself. I've read through the rule book. I have skimmed the videos that are there. And that leads me directly into point number 1. There's no gameplay. There's no gameplay. It makes me a little bit nervous nowadays when we talk triple digits, no matter what it is that you're putting your money down for, 125, 175 bucks, and I don't have an example of what the gameplay turns look like. Because as much as I like a rule book, I would argue nowadays most campaigns need both. Unless you're a filler game where I can get a good general gist of how things are going to go rather quickly, I need something just a little bit more from that aspect. And that is the number one thing that I know a lot of people have concerns about, but I also see a lot of people poo-pooing as well at times. They need it. They don't need it. Do you need it? Is it going to be helpful for you? Are you a visual and audio learner? Or are you more of the written word learning type of person? If you're like me, I can assemble the knowledge into my brain, but until I see it in action or until I do it physically in action myself, it doesn't click. And so that's point number 1 that you need to be aware of. Now, the nice thing, though, that they say in one of the updates, they hear you, and they say, we are looking into getting a proper gameplay video. So, again, that's something that, it's 17 days left. That's not insurmountable by any means. But then that gives you time to wait and see as well. Now, again, they did an early bird, so you're missing out on metal coins if you're not backing yet, like I am not. But again, something to be aware of. Point number 2 here. I see nothing so far on here, and they say that these stretch goals are going to be going up to, I think, 1.95 million euros. There is nothing on here when you get all the way down to the bottom of these stretch goals right down here that is marked as exclusive. Nothing. So, thankfully, they're not playing on the FOMO. But that also means that if you're willing to wait for the reviews and potentially pay more on the secondary market or through their shop, Mood's shop itself, whatever they end up doing from a retail distribution side of things, you could be getting pretty much the exact same thing. So the question is, why now? Are you willing to support the publisher? Is supporting the publisher that important to you? Is getting a better price that important to you? Is exclusivity that important to you? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself when you're looking at these things. And again, that's not you need to be on one side or the other, because I have felt strongly that some games with a lack of exclusives that I want to support the publisher on are important. And I've felt other games where I need some exclusive to back it at that point. And there's not a one-size-fits-all to crowdfunding when it comes to that. But it's something that you have to answer for yourself in your brain, as if you were going to answer it somewhere else. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. Number 3, and this is a big one. I'm going to go all the way back up here to the top, and I think this one can't be understated. Cooperative action board game. How many other big co-op games do you have? I am looking at the shelf that is sitting behind the camera right now, and I will just name off some games that I have. Okay, we have Bloodborne, Cuphead, Pandemic Legacy 1, Pandemic Legacy 2, Nemesis Lockdown, Aeon's End Legacy, Legacy of Gravehold, Marvel United. And that's just the first ones off the top of my cuff. And that's just the first ones off the tip of my tongue that I can do in front of the camera unrehearsed. Not to mention all the ones behind me. Is it going to fill a niche within your own collection? And what I mean by that is, I'm not going to dispute that this looks like a solid game. I am going to dispute that, is this going to get played over something else in your collection that you already have of similar nature, ilk, whatever it may be? Food for thought. That's always the big one. Will it hit the freaking table? Hyperspace Kraken. Point 4 is also worth some significant discussion because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is Deep Rock Galactic. Rockin' Stone! Rockin' Stone! Rockin' Stone! I hear that being shouted all over. I'm sure it's all over the comment section. I haven't looked. I have no affiliation with this original IP. Are the gameplay mechanics, going back to point number 3 and tying that in with that, enough to entice you to want to play it apart from the IP? If this was a rose by any other name, would it still smell as sweet, is what I'm saying. Would you still be as enticed with this, with the mechanics of this, if these were elves in an underwater city? Would you? Or is it because you have nostalgia towards the IP in general, or an attachment to it? Which, frankly speaking, has not served me well personally when it has come to board games. And I dare say other people would probably echo that comment when it comes to a good portion of the video game-based IP board games that have come out in the last 5 years, especially on crowdfunding. There are the exceptions, there are the good ones, there are the better ones, but I think you could very easily count the excellent wow on one hand. And so, again, back to point 3, I need something that is very good and is going to hit the table, not something that is an IP that I want with mechanics that may or may not fit, or not necessarily something better than what's else in my collection. So how does that influence number 3 is what I'm saying. Number 5 is the other sort of elephant in the room that I sort of alluded to. Especially at these higher 2 pledge levels. I give them a lot of kudos. Let me be very clear. At this lower pledge level, this $75 pledge level with the standees. Because you know me, I will prompt this anytime I can. Standees, awesome. Yes. At the same time, if you're not a standee person, let's say for the purpose of this argument, you're not a standee person. $125, or in theory, collector's edition, $175. With all of the miniatures, which again, no problem with miniatures. I have plenty of games in front of me and behind me that are miniature based. Let's talk comparison. Not that this isn't a good value, not that you're not going to get your money's worth, whatever that. We're going to go sideways on this money issue for a second. And I'm going to say, is this where you want to spend that $125, that $175 here over something else that's coming up? Especially in crowdfunding, especially miniature based, especially that is going to be triple digits. Are you better off getting this as another game to add to your shelf of unplayed games? Are you better off spending that money on Marvel United expansions if you're playing a ton of that? Are you better off on spending it on extra expansions for Marvel Zombies that you just bought? Or are you better off waiting for something else like later this month? Tidal Blades 2, down the line, Senko Kushinen, Lobotomy 2, the Unsettled reprint or expansions, Earth Under Siege Flashpoint, or heck, the one coming out right now, Kingdoms Forlorn. How do you want to split your money? Because, you know, you can maybe try and get them all, but also Kickstarter is not a place that you want to go in debt over, especially when even money may not be the issue, but I guarantee time probably is then, if you're like me. And so then, is it better to have one that you have more of that you actually get to the table, or is it better to have more so you're having more and that you're not missing out so you can, in theory, get it to the table? Which is better, which is worse? Food for thought. Because the competition for these triple-digit pledges, I'll tell you right now, even in the middle of February, is only going to get worse, especially even in the next 6 weeks. It's going to get worse, it's going to get harder, it's going to harder. And are you willing to go this route right now? Nothing wrong with this route, but is there something else out there, not that's already in your collection, like I talked about in one of the earlier points, but is there something else out there near soon that would trump this as well? There you go. That's it. 5 things why you might not be backing Deep Rock Galactic. And if you were paying very close attention, you may have even noticed the red light that went out while I was in the midst of filming this. Batteries, what can I say? Anyway, that's it. Deep Rock Galactic. I'm going to wait for the gameplay video. But like I said, Kingdoms Forlorn, Sanko, Tidal Blades. It's, you know, there's probably 1 or 2 others like this that are going to come out. And the question just is not, are they going to be good? Are they good for you to fit on your table comparatively? That's the bottom line. Doesn't matter how good a game is if you can't get it played, folks. Boom. There you go. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. I always forget to say that at the beginning. Help me get to 5K. That's all I got. Have a great day. Stay classy. See you around. Go to my Patreon.